Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, our very first episode of Tilted Thoughts. My name is Kenny, and I will be your host for this lovely endeavor of ours. Um, First and foremost, I want to thank you all for tuning in and being willing to see what I have to give the world, so to speak. So what is Tilted Thoughts? What will be Tilted Thoughts? Tilted Thoughts is going to be my corner, my endeavors, my story. You know, I feel everyone has a story, and maybe some people just don't take the opportunity to share theirs. And I figure I'm at a point in my life where I feel as though my story can be inspirational. And I'd like to put that out there to everybody, and then share my story and share my journey. Um, but for this, I want to I want to obviously use it as my platform. And episode one, we're gonna get an introduction. Um, my name, like I said, my name is Kenny. You check me out on Facebook. I am a tattoo artist out of Montoursville, Pennsylvania. Oh, I don't know why I hit that octave when I said Pennsylvania, but we're not going to edit that out. One thing, I am going to be as raw as possible. So there's not going to be crazy editing in this. This is honestly me filming on my own, setting it up, doing it by myself. Um, but this is going to be that place where I do, and I do want to bring in guests on the show. I do want to talk about everything, literally everything. Whether it's the tattoo industry, whether it's business ownership. Um, that's what I'm. That's what I'm. I want to mental health, all of it. Like, I feel like every story should be told. And every story has a meaning and has a purpose. Um, I want to use this as my chance to share my purpose and my experiences. And for me, I'm just at a point where my life has taken a transition and a turn that I it's almost surreal to me. It's almost like this can't be real. And then I feel as though I hope somebody hears my story, and it inspires them. So I mean, I guess here goes nothing. And I hope you guys stay through to the ride. Um, I'm a very raw person. I'm a very honest, open person. So I'll talk about anything and everything. Uh, and I have clients that can attest to this, and I feel like that's what makes me me. I'm very, very just transparent, and I try to be transparent, and just open with life. And I'm willing to talk about it all, whether it makes us uncomfortable or not. There's certain things that my inputs on them will be not crazy ranted and raved, but is it something that we'll probably fucking touch on in here? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, like I said, this is going to be the rawest form um, that I can give. Whether I have somebody else here and we expand set and bring on guests, or it's just me on my own talking. It's gonna be open and honest and realistic. You know, um, so my story. I guess here goes. Like I said, I'm a 35-year-old tattoo artist in Montoursville, Pennsylvania. I opened my very first shop 6 months ago. I've been professionally in the industry since about 2017. We're 2026 right now, so almost a decade. Um, I got into tattooing about 2014, so about 12 years. Um, 12 years of dedication into the industry. I'm 6 months into owning my very first shop. And just the past 6 months have been so surreal to me. Such a blessing, if you may. And I don't even want that to, take it as a religious type of ordeal. That's more of just what it has been. I've put so much time into this, and I've made this everything that I didn't think I could be. So other than that, I am a father. I have 5 biological children. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. I know how to fucking stop it and all that good jazz. So there's 5 biological, and then if I include my stepchildren, who I do love dearly, there's 7 total. So yeah, I got a lot of children that keep me very busy. The oldest is about to be 16. Um, I got into his life when he was pretty young. My firstborn child, um, he's 14. So I had him at 21, actually a month and day after my 21st birthday. Um, my dad was calling me and saying, "Kenny, I'm coming to get you." What the fuck's going on? You're having a baby. I said, "No, I'm not. She's a scheduled C-section in a couple fucking weeks." And he goes, "Yeah, well, her water broke, so you're getting your ass to the hospital." So we rushed over to the hospital. This was with a girl that I had dated in high school a little bit. We had gotten together, and probably around my junior senior year, something like that. And we were together for a few years. She got pregnant with Ryan, and like I said, I had him at 21. So at that time, I had my parents in my life and everything like that. And Dad looked at me and he said, "Kenny, you got to go to work." So I did landscaping. I landscaped and cut grass for fucking. It's probably one of my first jobs at like 15. 15. Pops got me in with the neighbor down the street, Uncle Frank, and I'd help him in the summer and make a few dollars, whatever. So I ended up always having a little bit of experience in it, and it was just easy. You're talking. I was born 1990, so when you're early 2000s and it's 10 plus an hour, it was pretty decent. And so 21, had Ryan, and I guess as things took a turn in his mother and my life. She expected me to just go find a career, work hard, and that was it. And I don't know. I wasn't ready for that, I guess. And I wasn't ready to be a dad at that time. So I, I kept doing my thing, but I always tried to be there for him. That was always my big thing. Like I just wanted that boy, wanted to spend time with him, and I can vouch for that. I mean, I when I lived in New Jersey, I had Ryan every other weekend. I was trying to get him as much as I can. Me and his mother had a falling out. Um, so when she got pregnant with him, her dad told her she had to leave. She couldn't stay at his house anymore, and her mother was a hot mess at the time. Um, so my parents, who after separating my senior year of high school, they had gotten back together. They were staying in an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. It was them, my little brother. I had actually been kicked out I was living with my grandparents, so I've always been super close to my grandparents, and we'll touch on that as well. But um, as far as where we're at in the story, my children and everything. So she got pregnant. She went and stayed with my parents. I was living with my grandparents about 30 to 45 minutes away, and just being a shithead kid, well, adolescent, so to speak, whatever, young adult. I was just doing dumb shit, drinking and partying, and I mean, it was a weird bit, but I always tried to tell her like I would take him. I took Ryan from time as soon as she would let me have him overnights when he was baby. So I had Ryan young, and me and his mother had a falling out, and we ended up single. And then I met my next child. Well, then I had two other boys with the next girl I was with, and that's where my stepson comes into play. I got with his mother, my ex. Ryan was young. Her son was like 2 years old, and so that's he's 16 now, and I won't go nowhere. But me and her were together for a hot minute, about 10 years, and we had two boys together. Our biological oldest is 12, and then we have Miles, who's 4. Um, we had a long relationship, and honestly, I was just a shitbag and not couldn't be a monogamous person with her, and did what I did, and she ended up leaving. So I spent a lot of time just trying to find myself after that, and then I thought I did, and I ended up I don't know I ended up just fucking taking a lot of time to myself after that breakup, honestly. um 10 years and two kids and a life, you don't think that person's ever going to leave. You really don't. And it was a wild moment in my life. It was a wild time in my life where I thought it was all crumbling, and I look back now and I'm almost fucking glad it took the path it did. And I don't know if I'd have much change to it. I'm at that point in my life, where I thought something that was everything. I'm kind of happy about the road that it's taken. But anyway, so two kids, Tony, Miles. Um, I love those boys dearly. Tony was with me full time after we split for a few years, and recently he's been a shitbag, so he's staying with her. And then Miles, I get him every weekend, but um, after I spent a few months just by myself. I really did, and trying to find myself after that breakup, and then I did, and eventually got back into the dating scene, so to speak, and then ended up with my daughter's mother. So whatever happened, and we had a little girl together, Lily. She just turned 2. Uh, that little girl is my world. That little girl is my absolute world, and it really changed me. It really fucking did. Um, it was weird how it did, but I don't know. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're a man when you have a daughter. It's gonna make you soft," and I feel like it did, but it didn't, in a sense. In a sense, it did make me soft, but it also made me just want to fucking take over the world for that little girl. Um, and then we had Kennedy. Then we had Kennedy shortly after. Kennedy's going to be 1 in September, so they're a little over 13 months apart. Um, Yeah, I know. That should happen quick. Um, she had Lily, and then she had gotten on a birth control that was just the fucking thing that's up in there, and then it was uncomfortable. Took whatever. I, I, but no. So then that's where my two daughters come from. So that brings us up to six. Seven comes from Jess's daughter. She has a 10-year-old from previous relationship, and I mean, I love that little girl. She's a pain in my ass sometimes. I won't lie. She can be a pain in my ass, and she's a little different. But I don't know. Once you kind of get to know her, she definitely pulls little strings in your heart. So, but yeah, as far as that's where the kids go. That's how the kids come into play for me. Um, so outside of my kids, you'll learn I'm a gym rat. I love the gym through and through. It has been such a part of my life, um, for a long part of my life too. My infatuation with the gym probably started when I was sixth, seventh grade. Um, that's when I got into sports, and coaches kept telling me, "Kenny, just get bigger, get bigger, get bigger." And I fell into the gym. So my kids, the gym, tattooing. That's almost it for me. Um, so let's dive into the tattooing. Where the tattooing stems from, so to speak. I want to do a time check. I'm not editing out that time check, by the way. What is it? Yeah. Okay, cool. So, tattooing for me, it's crazy that when I sit and I think about it, I can almost think back to like elementary school. So when my I call him my dad. It was technically my stepdad. We'll get into that, I'm sure. Um, right now, me and tattooing. Um, when I was young, he had fucking barbed wire, and I remember myself in school, and I'd always draw shit on my arms, and I'd get home from school, and he'd fucking yell at me like, I have a pen all over your arm, blah blah blah. And then I want to say I was like 14, almost 15. Probably, yeah, probably like that summer. I was like 14. I got in trouble. I was stealing from the fucking mall. I forget what the fuck I was stealing, but I got grounded all summer. And that was the summer my dad got one of his sleeves done. So he was in the shop, fucking crazy amounts, full day sittings and just chipping away at his arm. But mom was working and he didn't trust me to stay at the house. So it was always, Kenny, come on. I got a tattoo appointment. You got to go with me. And, um, I never forget that. I really don't. Dark Star Tattoo on Route 9. Unfortunately, it is no longer there. Richie Pan, the owner, had passed away in a tragic accident a couple years back. Rest in peace to Richie. He was a figure in tattooing that I think I'll look at for the rest of my life as what you should strive to be in tattooing, if I'm being honest with you. Um, Seeing the work growing up that he did on my dad, and you'd see the portfolio, and it's like, wow, that man just gave you a solid tattoo no matter what it was. So yeah, so probably around 14, I was just sitting in the shops all the time, hanging out with the guys, and being a little shitbag kid. I didn't have no business fucking hanging out in the shop. They had a fucking stripper pole in the corner, big biker fucking type of thing. I mean, and no, not nothing. I don't judge nobody on what nothing. That's just it was that vibe of the shop, and I feel like everyone understands that. Um, so yeah, so probably around 14 it was that, and then I want to say my 17th birthday, I got my first tattoo. Um, the girl I was dating at the time asked what I wanted to do for my birthday, and I was just like, yo, let's see if the shop's got some time. Um, my parents for my birthday had actually booked an appointment with the homie Pat. Um, Pat, I can't fucking pronounce your last name. So if you see this, I'm sorry, Pat, but I love you to death. Um, Pat has, I mean, I've guest spotted with Pat and still talk to him to this day. I love him to death. But so my parents had booked me an appointment with Pat for my 17th birthday, and it was like 2 weeks after my birthday. So on my birthday, we went to the shop. I asked if anyone had walk-in time, and like, well, what do you want? I don't give a flying fuck. I wanted tattooed. Um, so I was like, well, the family, my mother's side of the family, Irish firefighters, through and through. My grandfather, 50 plus years in the volunteer fire department. My uncle's same, and I come from a lot of that family. Uh, you'll notice the fireman's helmet, is from a family member that passed. But yeah, so 17th birthday, and they're like, yeah, we got time. So I call up my dad, and because they're like, listen, he's got to be here for the whole fucking thing, and I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? Come on over. He comes down and whatever. They fucking blast this shit on the back of my calf, which, yeah, cool. We can't see it. So I get a piece on the back of my calf, and it fucking hurt like a bitch. Some fucking chick did it. I couldn't tell you her fucking name. Um, I got up and I was like, I'll never fucking forget it. And I like looked around. I was like, yo, why did nobody tell me that was gonna fucking suck? Because it did. It fucking sucked. And Richie was over there tattooing, and he looks up and he's like, because we knew you pussy out. And I'm like, fucking fair enough. Fucking fair enough. So I got the one on the back of my calf fucking blasted, and that fucking had me limping for a hot minute. Um, then fucking couple weeks later, like 2 weeks later, Pat did the one on my back. I absolutely loved it. My 18th birthday came, and I didn't need my parents anymore. I pissed my dad off. So that's what it was. When I was for my 17th birthday, I got the one on my back. We did that in 2 sittings. Pat was just like, I want to do it in 2 sittings. Okay, fine. So we outlined in 1 sitting, and then we were coming back later to do the shading. Um, I think that's also an influence as to why I'm covered in fucking unfinished shit, by the way. Started at a young age, but between the time frame of the outline and the shading, I did whatever the fuck I did. And my dad was just like, you're not fucking getting no more tattoos. I'm like, well, motherfucker, you paid for this shit to be finished. So he allowed me to get it finished, and then he said no more until I could fucking do it myself. 18th birthday came by. Oh, Jesus Christ, this is a fucking story and a half. But 18th birthday, I make an appointment with Pat. And I'm like, I showed up like sometime fucking months ahead. And, I told Pat, I'm like, listen, bro, I want to get words across my chest. God help us all, blah, blah, blah. I tell my mother, I'm like, Mom, I'm going on my. She's like, what are you doing on your birthday? And at this point, I'm fucking 18. I don't want to party and cake with the family. I just want to go and do my thing. And I'm like, listen, Ma, I got a fucking tattoo appointment. She's like, well, what the fuck are you getting? And I was just like, I'm getting some words across my chest. As she looks at me, I swear, I'll bring my mother on the show one day. And she'll test to this. She goes, Kenny, if you fucking do this, I'm coming to the shop and I am fucking smacking the shit out of you. I'm like, Ma, you're fucking bluffing, right? So whatever. Time comes for the appointment. I head over to the tattoo shop. Um, I'm laying there getting my fucking chest tattooed, words, whatever. And, homie's on one side, and I'm just kind of like glaring off to the side. And, I think he's just fucking dipping or doing whatever. And all of a sudden, like, eyes closed. I'm just like, whack. And I'm like, oh no. And everybody fucking cracked up, man. Everybody's cracked up. And I was just like, I looked at my mother. I look over at my mother standing. I'm like, no, the fuck you didn't. I fucking told you. Um, but yeah, sure shit smacked the shit out of me at the shop. It was funnier than fuck. But so that was it. I mean, after that, I've always loved the look of Japanese art. and I always wanted one of those sleeves. So fucking scrounged together a couple bucks. At one point, I got a big fucking Hanyu mask blasted on my forearm, and since then it's fuller sleeved and everything. But um, so yeah, so I've always kind of had exposure to the world of tattooing. Um, what put a machine in my hand though? Um, it's crazy to say it, but depression. I was fuck 23, no, 24, 24 years old. I'd been working landscape and working with a half decent company and making fairly good money, but at the time I had technically the three boys is what I looked at it as. So at 24, 23, 24, four kids, or three kids, I'm sorry, three kids. I had to work, and winter time was slow. So just the way I was brought up was your dad, you have to work. Um, sorry, chains in the way, but yeah. So I drew. I drew, draw. I would draw. I would draw. I've always had an niche, artistic niche, and fuck, that started when I was young. My grandfather, since the time I was very little, would buy me art sets for Christmas or birthdays or whatever. So I'd get the little boxwood sets, and they were the greatest things ever to me. So I've always just had that natural ability as far as art. Um, so when that depression hit, I just kind of fell back into something that I enjoyed. Um, my ex saw it. She saw that I could draw, and I had fucking tattoos already. So she looked at me one day and she was like, "Hey, Kenny, you ever think of tattooing?" And like I said, I've had exposure to the industry, so I understood that getting into the industry meant an apprenticeship, right? That's how you get into tattooing. You have to apprentice. That's just the way I looked at it. Um, she was like, "You ever think of tattooing?" I'm like, "Fuck no. I can't do that. We have fucking three kids. I need to work. I'm not gonna get paid. Like, I can't do it." Um, she looks at me and she's like, "Well, I got you a fucking tattoo kit, so figure it the fuck out." I was really like, okay, I don't know what the fuck you mean, figure it the fuck out, but whatever, that's cool. Um, so sure as shit, I got a fucking tattoo kit. Shitty ass fucking Amazon Chinese machines, and I called up my fucking little brother, Zach, and I'll never fucking forget it. I was like on the phone. I'm like, "Yo, bro, I got fucking, you're never gonna believe this. I got a fucking tattoo machine." And sure as shit, he's like, "Bet, I'm on my way." Click, hangs the fuck up on me. And we got a little shitty apartment at the time and whatever. I'm in the kitchen fucking around with it, trying to fucking watch YouTube videos, figure out how this shit works. My brother shows up. We start fucking around with it, and him being just in the family, obviously he had similar exposures to tattoos, so it wasn't a crazy taboo thing to him. Um, so we're fucking around with it, and he's like, "Listen, bro, like I tried to do this little stick and poke on my finger. Uh, why don't you just fucking set shit up, and we'll let you try it out. Just buzz it out." I'm like, "Bro, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, no idea, none at all. I don't even know if this is put together right. Like, to be honest." Um, he's like, "Whatever, bro. Like, I fucking stick and poked it. I kid you not. If you can skin that boy's hand, acid dip it, whatever the fuck you want for that finger, that tattoo is on there. That tattoo will still be there." So we do that, and sure as shit, he's like, "Yeah, that was rough." I was like, "Well, fucking duh." Um, so he looks at me and he's like, "Kenny, you need to tattoo yourself." And I'm like, "Bro, I'm not fucking tattooing myself. That's stupid." And he's like, "Nah, dude, you've been tattooed, so tattoo yourself and see if you can make it feel the same." And I don't know what my fucking dumbass saw in that ideology, but it made sense to me. It made sense to me. So I started fucking, finding random leg spots and, going to work, coming home at night, setting up a little fucking shit in the kitchen and watching videos on YouTube and fucking paying attention to every little thing I can. And um, I ended up, one of the homies at the fucking, in the neighborhood, he had a tattoo machine, and he had done a couple little jammers out of the house, and I had seen some shit. It looked half decent, so at one point I was chilling with him. He had showed me some stuff, and I just started kind of becoming this person that I wanted to know more about it, and I wanted to learn more about it, right? Um, and I really just was so intrigued by it and fascinated with it, and I truly, even though I wasn't doing it the right way of getting into it, I fell in love with it on my own, and I fell in love with this fucking process of just absorbing every bit of knowledge that comes with tattooing. Um, so I started tattooing myself, and and then slowly and surely started tattooing friends and brothers and significant other, whatever, blah blah blah, and got to a point where I started to charge people a little bit of money because this was costing me bits. Um, Ended up in a spot, rough spot in life, and wake up one day and my ex is just fucking stressed out. She's like, "We're short on rent. You gotta fucking figure it out." And like I said, wintertime with what I did, we didn't work, and this was a wintertime, event, and kind of fell into it in the winter and shit. So um, she tells me that I got to figure it out. So I call up some of the homies. I'm like, listen, I'm going to come fucking set up. I got to tattoo people, bro. Like, call everybody. Let them all know tats are cheap, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't, y'all can judge me how you want, but I fucking tattooed my ass off all through the night. I got home, it was like fucking 6, 7 in the morning, and I just wad of cash fucking tossed it and passed out. So at that moment I kind of realized that, like, yeah, I can make some money doing this. I can support myself, so to speak, doing this. And so I started to do that more. I started to go tattoo people more, and the more I did these quote unquote tattoo parties, the more I fell in love with it. And I got to a point where I wanted more out of it. I wanted to be respected for it. I had people just dogging me, dogging me. You'll never tattoo me. You're the only real tattooers tattoo me, and blah blah blah. And, you know, just I wanted to be something in it. And then I wanted to actually be looked at as that. That's a tattoo artist. Like, Kenny's a tattoo artist, and that's what it is. And I knew I had to take some steps. So, excuse me. I started exploring my options. Like I said, my priority at the time was to work. I had 3 children. I had bills to pay. Um, so I discovered a tattoo school. May you have it. That was located in Jersey City. Please don't ask me the fucking shop name. I can't remember it. Saved the life of me. Um, but I got information on that, and I went to my grandparents and I said, listen, I need help. I need to do this. I don't know why, but I can do it. I can set up a schedule. I can go there. I can learn the tattoo, and that's what they're going to teach me. I got to pay them, but it can pay off. It can be everything. And I don't think my grandparents really know the impact that had on my career, because that was definitely a pivotal point in my tattoo career. Because I will give that quote unquote school credit. Looking back on it, how they were doing it was not inappropriate. It was very respectable now that I look back on it. Um, and being at the spot that I'm at. You know, they started you from scratch, from that sense of here's how to make flash art, and then we're gonna take these similar steps to get into tattooing. So I got into that, and you know, while I was working, I would take a couple shorter days. I'd work through lunch. I'd leave work early from landscaping. I'd shoot home, which was about 30 minutes away. You know, get showered, cleaned up. So I did like a 7 to fucking 3:30, 4 o'clock ish. I tried to get up to the shop by like 6 o'clock. So the shop was up in Jersey City. So from my house in New Jersey, hopping on the Parkway was about 45 minutes. So it wasn't bad. Um, I'd stay up there till about 10 o'clock at night when the shop closed. I did that 3 nights out of the week. Or, no, I'm sorry, I did that 2 nights out of the week. But, you know, and other nights I would hit up people, and, you know, people would hit me up. And if they needed tattooed, like, that's just what I did. I did it for probably about a year or so. Um, did that for about a year or so. And then I moved out of Jersey. Jersey just became very toxic for me, and just a place that I needed to leave from. So moved out of there, went down to Florida. Florida didn't work. I was down there for like 8 months. Um, some shit just don't fucking work out, you know. I'm really fucking glad it didn't. Um, so left Florida. My ex has, well, yeah, she has some family that's about, I don't know, 45 minutes or so north from here. And they made the suggestion of moving out here. They were like, listen, you're bumfuck nowhere, Pennsylvania. It's cheap, and you know you'll make it happen if you want to. So that was it. We kind of just took a leap of faith, and she found out that she was working for a home health aid company. She was able to transfer. So when we moved up here, she started working immediately. Um, my now 12-year-old was, you know, 2 at the time, and we didn't have childcare. So I was home watching him, just not doing nothing, being a house dad, so to speak. Um, one random day, she was off. She wanted to get the ear piercing for their headache or whatever the fuck. I don't fucking know. But whatever. She wanted some piercing in her fucking ear that, you know, we had to go to a shop for. And I knew that, just being, you know, exposed to the industry. So I'm like, hey, call around, see what's happening. Um, she called around to some shops. You know, one of the guys said, yeah, I got time. So we went over to the shop. We went over to Shake and Ink, um, which is no longer around. Um, it just took a, you know, different turn in life. But we went over there, and, you know, me having respect for shops, we had our 2-year-old with us. I sat in the car. I said, you go in. I'll hang out with him. You know, we'll be here when you're done. She had come out, and she said, hey, listen, like, dude needs an apprentice. He don't really, he's doing it all on his own, and I kind of told him all about you, so you should probably go talk to him. Okay, so I went inside and, you know, introduced myself, guy named Dean, and I kind of just figured, fuck it. You know, he looked at me and he said, hey, listen, if you're serious, bring me your portfolio. Um, from being involved in the apprenticeship out in Jersey City, I'd actually put together a pretty fucking decent portfolio. Um, to the point where he didn't fucking believe it. You know, he had me redraw shit, but, you know, I brought him my portfolio, and then it was just like, all right, you know, if you want to do this, start hanging around. Okay. And I fucking, you know, started hanging around, and then, you know, scrounge together some fucking couple dollars or some shit, or he'd have some free time, and I'm like, hey, you want to do something little, some dumb shit, my fucking fingers, or dog shit, you know. But they were stupid little guys that I was just like, throw something, whatever, you know. I got a couple bucks, dude, like, help me out. So I showed up at the shop every day for 3 months, and I'd clean up the shop and, you need help with anything and blah, blah, blah. So, I think that also came, a lot of that influence and that experience definitely was impacted from my knowledge in the industry. Um, I knew already what I had to do. I knew, it was just do the bitch work, do this, do that, and do whatever you had to do to get that fucking machine in your hand and get tattooing people. And, so eventually we started, drawing and hanging out and watching them and blah, blah, blah. And he says, Kenny, go to local butcher. Go to local butcher, see if you can get pig skin. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? So I go to local butcher. I get fucking pig skin, fucking slabs of pigs. And that fucking sucked because, you got to trim fucking fat, gross ass pieces and you got to shave this shit. And now you're trying to fucking tattoo this slimy fucking hunk of pork chop looking shit. But I did that for, however long. And I don't want to say that I kind of progressed through that very quickly just because I had some experience with a machine in my hand. But like, I'll be honest, I know I did. If you look back on my timeline, like I know it was. So yeah, so got the pigskin, did a couple jammers, and we'd keep it in the fridge. Keep that shit in the fridge, keep it cold, otherwise it'll go bad. And one day we fucking come in and the fridge had kicked off, the breaker had popped that night, so pigskin went bad. Um, I was a little bummed out. I was like, "Fuck, man!" I was looking forward to doing some tattooing today, and blah blah blah. And I start sitting there, and I'm like, "Yo, Dean, like, I can tattoo myself." And he was like, "No, you fucking idiot." I'm like, "Why not? I don't give a fuck, dude. It's my legs. I don't give a fuck about my legs. Excuse me." He's like, "No, dude, you're not tattooing yourself." He goes, "Listen, find one of your dumbass fucking friends and convince them to come get a little tattoo." So I did. I 100% did. I did a little fucking skull, kid's ankle. I did my outline and I showed it to him. All right, it looks good. He goes, "Why don't you go set up your shader and do a couple drops of black, add some water, blah blah blah, and do a little shade." So I did that, and he's like, "All right, cool, wrap it up, looks good, blah blah blah." So I was fucking, I'm fucking buzzing because I just did my first official professional tattoo in a shop and everything, and it was fucking dope. So the kid throws me a couple bucks, and Dean's like, "Yeah, that's for the shop," and I was just like, "All right, that's cool." Um, so he's like, "Hey, why don't you know what? Why don't you go get lunch?" Okay, cool. So I go out, I get lunch, I come back. There's two people sitting in the waiting area, whatever. I don't know who the fuck you are. I don't give a fuck. I'm buzzing from doing my first tattoo. And he just kind of looks at me and he's like, "Yeah, so you see those two there?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, well, they were my 3, 4 o'clock, whatever." And he's like, "But I was talking with him and I told him about you and I told him I give him a good deal. So you're gonna tattoo him?" Okay. So that's how it fucking started, and then every day it was just, somebody else for a different walk in or do a little jammer here and there. And, I just started slowly building that clientele and building myself. Um, so, I mean, the skill set as far as my mentor, um, it's a whole fucking episode of talking that I can go down with that one. Um, you can get a half decent basic tattoo. He I'll put it as he can teach you not to fuck people up. So the level of tattooing that I had gotten to there, I had very quickly um, surpassed him, so to speak, in my ability and what I aspired to be. Um, just some things happened, and I had been introduced to my previous boss, Mike Lane. He's owns 1031 Tattoos down in Montana and just outside like Lewisburg area. Um, so I got introduced to him, and great tattooer, solid fucking tattooer. I will never take that from Mike. He will forever be a solid tattooer, and there's you can't argue that when it comes to his work. To say he's a shit tattooer is crazy, but he is a solid ass tattooer, man. And I have got nothing but love for him, and I'm sure we will dive down more into that, so to speak. But as far as him and this industry, he is bulletproof in what he does. So I got with him, and that, while it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make, um, it was probably one of the best decisions I made. Just Mike, at the point in his career that I had gotten with him, he had built some relationships in the industry, so I definitely got to meet people that he's friends with, and they shared love and knowledge with me, um, and I'll forever be grateful. I will, no matter what, no matter what has transpired or what will transpire, or anything like that, and there's no bad blood on my behalf. Um, but I will forever be grateful for the time that I had at that shop, and with Mike. He was just a genuine person, and gave a fuck and helped me a lot in my career. Um, so I do owe a lot to him, and he did everything he could to put me in front of people that he knew would help me, and he knew could could put me on the path for what I aspired to be, and the type of tattooer that I want to be. So, I know that I learned so much more in Mike's shop than I did in the years of my apprenticeship. Um, but I spent 5 years with Mike, and I guess just things not even went bad. Nothing went bad. I don't want to say anything even went bad. Just things came to a crossroad, and I had the thought placed in there of like, you could run a shop, and that just kind of, that little spark was all it took. That little spark was all it took, and then it started to smolder a little bit, and it started to smolder a little bit, and then just the thought and the idea of it kind of came to life more. Um, and again, nothing against Mike at all, nothing against Mike at all. So, when the idea started smoldering, and then I started to look into things on just my end, kind of more or less pay attention to shit. Um, I kind of realized the money that I was bringing in and the percentage that I was paying out. Uh, for me, and again, it's nothing towards Mike. That's just the industry. That's the industry, and I reached this point where I realized that if I didn't give him that percentage, and I put the bills in my name and paid them, and I'm probably putting out less than that percentage. Um, so for me, it almost became a good financial decision. So um, I started playing with the idea of it. and you know, talking with people that I felt I could trust and that I had a level of respect for. Um, you know, so not putting it out there completely. And my standpoint, when I started playing with the idea of opening the shop, because to be honest with you, that idea it maybe sparked a year ago at this point. You know, so I started just telling people, you know, I'm thinking about it. I want to pay attention to my finances over the next year. Blah blah blah. Um, I told a good buddy of mine. I told a good buddy of mine. And I wake up one morning and I have a text message from him. It's a screenshot of a listing of Facebook of the building that I now occupy. Um, I knew when I saw that location available that I had to jump. I had to jump. This location was a hair salon for 40 years. They were very successful, obviously, to have lasted for 40 years. It is on the main intersection of Montoursville. It is right. You can't fucking miss it. So when I seen that, you know, my heart hit my fucking asshole, and I said, "Fuck! I have to figure it out. I have to come up with extra money, and I have to make this happen." Um, and again, I called in favors. I won't lie. I went to my grandparents and I said, "Listen, I have an opportunity and I can make it happen, and I really know I can do it." You know, just at this point in my life, like I needed to prove that I can do it, to me, to the world, to everybody. And you know, me and my grandfather talked, and he said, "Kenny, what do you need?" I said, "Listen, give me 5 grand. Give me 5 grand and I'll fucking do it." So he took a bit of fucking convincing. You know, he took a bit of convincing, but he said finally, you know, "Kenny, listen, I'll pull out, you know, from the retirements and this, that, and the third, the investments, and I'll give you your 5 grand." I said, "Yeah." I said, you're not gonna regret this. You know, I'm gonna pay you back. I'll chip away. Blah blah blah." So that was it. I had my 5 grand. I instantly took $2,500 and handed it to the landlord. Um, so then my fucking head was spinning. You know, I had to tell Mike I was leaving. I had to set up a fucking shop and figure it all out. Um, you know, and at Mike's shop, there was an apprentice there. So I had worked very closely with her, which, you know, we'll introduce her and everything. But, you know, so that's kind of where it led to. You know, it led to just, holy shit, I had a shop. So I had $2,500. I got two fucking tattoo chairs, a couch, which I'm not even sitting on it. It's too fucking big right now. Um, and whatever I had in my booth, you know. So that's what I did it with, man. And excuse me, you know, that's what it started with. That's where it came from, and the next 6 months that followed have just been truly dumping everything into it, guys. And you know, I think a lot of people are seeing that. A lot of people are seeing where I stand with it, um, and how I want this to be something that I built. You know, this is what I'm gonna build, and this is I didn't I don't have artists here that I haven't taught how to tattoo. You know, so this is something that I'm truly building in every aspect of it. Um, so yeah, so the time came to figure out a fucking shop name. You know, figure out that shop name. And I guess this is what, you know, a lot of people ask about this one. You know, where did Tilted Halo Tattoo Studio come from? Huh. So for me, I wanted to pay that homage to Dark Star, to what I saw growing up, to a couple of the homies that have influenced me, um, in tattooing. You know, Joe out in Jersey at All Saints Tattoos. Big love to him. You know, he's inspirational. Um, I love his tattoo style. He's a fucking dope guy. But so I kind of wanted to mesh that. You know, I almost wanted to mesh that, and I wanted something that was darker and imperfect, and you know, something that I can also branch off and tell a story and put a message to. You know, so I started to go down rabbit holes. I did. I started to go down rabbit holes. I started to think of how I can describe something that's, you know, perfectly imperfect, um, and where it could go. And I I I hit the fallen angel. That was my first like inspiration. You know, I was like, oh, fallen angel. I could do the angel, blah blah blah, whatever. Cheesy ass fucking idea. I know. Um, and then after a quick Google search, I realized how fucking common that was. So I wanted something almost along those lines of like this angel that isn't perfect. You know, how can I tell somebody they're an angel, but it's not perfect, you know? Um, you know, so then I thought about how can you describe that imperfect angel? You know, they can have, you know, the angel can be a little bumped and bruised and beat up and stuff like that, but what's just going to signify that imperfection in that angel? And you know, you think of what gives you that angel sight. What's that automatic imagery, right? It's a halo. You see a halo and you think, oh, that's an angel, you know. So now that drew my focus to that. So I'm on the halo, and how do I, you know, broken halo, this, that, and the third. And I felt like broken halo was just very cliche. You know, I'll be honest. And I wanted a little more sublimity. Sublimity? Whatever. I wanted a little more subliminal message into it, you know. So I just what can be imperfect about this halo that will have this hidden message to it. And you know, and then it just it has to be tilted. You know, it can't be perfectly straight. It has to be tilted. You know, so that's when the light bulb clicked. And you know, it was Tilted Halo. You know, Tilted Halo was what I was gonna go with, and the story that was gonna come with that, the message that I wanted to send with that is just you can be perfect being imperfect. You know, find perfection and imperfection. You know, even though you're a little bumped up, you're scarred, you're tattooed, you have a past, you whatever it may be that has quote unquote tainted you or whatever, you can still be an angel. You know, because at the end of the day, when you see an angel and whatever, even if that halo is tilted a bit, you're not going to look at it and say, "Oh, that angel's fucked up." No, it's still an angel. You know, so that's the message. You know, finding yourself and finding your happiness and pursuing that. You know, so that's what I want people like. Happy, the pursuit of happiness is life, right? We're on this journey, and what do we want? You don't want to feel those sorrows and those down times and, you know, things of such. You know, I mean, look at society. We mask those depressions. We medicate these things. And you know, I think just spreading that positivity and letting people know that you're okay not being perfect. Um, that is the message that I want to put out in the world. You know, that's what I want people to remember me as. You know, I'll leave this lasting impression, right? There's going to be hundreds of people, thousands if you may, right? That'll always share uh, a piece of me. That'll always have that memory of me because I put a piece of art on them that's always gonna last. But
that art isn't for everybody, you know, and that's the thing. I don't want to just be remembered for this. I want to be remembered for what my message was, and to tell people to pursue happiness, to tell people you're okay being you. I think that's really the goal, is just to spread that, and to make sure we're encouraging everybody to have that positivity. So and everyone's allowed their own opinion. Everyone's allowed to view themselves, view no 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 not view themselves, view perfection in their own manner, if you may. What I see as perfect, maybe you don't. Or maybe what you see as perfect, I think is, I have no interest in it. So it's okay. It's okay to be you. It really is. And that's the message. That's what I'd like to spread. That's what I'd like to get out of Tilted Halo, and the brand that I am working so incredibly hard to put together on the backside of this. Um, and I hope that message is something that I can have live on for years, and I can know that maybe I did something that helped somebody. Maybe just somehow, some way, I changed somebody's life somewhere. You know, so to me, it's more than just tattooing. It is so much more than just the art that I'm going to leave behind. Um, I want my message to be here for years to come. And I hope that this is my avenue to take it. I hope it is, and I hope that everything that's been coming my way is because of what I want to put out there. Um, so there it is, guys. The brand is coming. I'm working on that. Um, so I can branch off, and not even branch off, but just expand into so much. And not a tattoo brand. That's not what I want. I don't want my focus on just this industry. I want my focus on everybody. And what do we all have in common? We all have mental health. So I wanna spread the message throughout the world. And if this is the platform that I can do that from, um, I'm gonna do it. And now's my chance. Now is my now or never. So I hope for great things for Tilted Halo. I hope great things for the sistering companies that I'm developing. Um, I don't want to drop any names yet, just so I have everything tied, you know, nicely and ready to rock and roll. Um, but I hope and pray that it does just continue on the path that it is. Because if I can put that message out there, guys, I just I feel as though it'll kind of be me serving my purpose, if you will. You know, um, so um, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think we've had a good first episode, guys. I'm really excited about this. You've gotten a little insight into me. Um, there's a little bit more to me. I did some semi-pro football and crazy shit. So, and again, I'm gonna bring in more people. So, if you see some of the guys from the football team, you see some of the artists in the shop. Be ready for all that stuff. But I want to continue my story too. So expect me to just be here on my own. Continuing talking about my life experiences. Um, and also sharing on those life experiences with the guest. bringing in people and, talking about, you know, what they've been through or where they're at in their life and what they want out of things, and, just whatever knowledge we can share, guys. So, yeah, fuck, man, I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in. If you have tuned in this long, you're a fucking gem. Um, this will be posted on my YouTube. So check it out, subscribe, skip through it, do whatever the fuck you need to do. Um, get the views up. I appreciate it. Um, granted, guys, I got a fucking cool little button so I can kill my camera, from here without having to fucking get on there. But yeah, guys, I'm planning to tune in weekly. So pick the brain, learn the story, see what's next to come. Hopefully, feel inspired. Get a little bit of somebody else who's been through it. But again, I just want to thank everybody, and I hope y'all stay blessed, man. I'll see y'all later.